Hello again, my dear friends. I'm Ryan Campbell. You're here with The Conversation, and I'm joined today with my friend, Frank Smart. Frank is an activist and an advocate for local veterans. He's served our country, and he's here today to talk about some good things that are going on in the community for veterans, right, Frank?
Absolutely. We've got some good stuff coming up.
Yeah, well, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And
Well-
let me say this. Thank you for what you do for this county. I know that's a thankless job. Okay? I ran for office myself one time, two times actually.
Well, I appreciate that, yeah.
and luckily I didn't get elected.
It's not as thankless as you'd think. Yeah, unfortunately, I did, so.
Well, the reason I say that is
Yeah.
this. Since I didn't get elected, the next year I started Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, it's kind of this, I don't know, you have it and I have it, that we have this bug that makes us want to
Have to serve.
serve your community.
Have to
because
serve.
when you love the place you live and you care about the people that
That's right.
are around you, you
Absolutely.
find ways to give back. No
That's
matter
right.
what.
That's great.
But, and the thing that you're probably most known for in the community is you are a tireless advocate for veterans issues in Tuolumne County.
I guess it's a calling.
Yeah.
I don't know that. I guess it's just something I got involved in and enjoyed it and thought I had some success, and I had some issues that I needed personally that I wanted to bring to the forefront, and found a receptive community.
Mm-hmm.
And things really changed from my generation with Operation Desert Storm.
Mm-hmm.
No one wanted that war either, but they didn't blame the guy in the foxhole like they did in my war.
Right.
People acted like we started that war. We didn't start that war. The guys in Congress started that war.
And you're talking about the Vietnam War.
The Vietnam War. But we had to fight it. We did the dirty work, but we weren't responsible for it. And my generation of soldiers acquitted themselves on the field of battle as good as any generation of soldiers in American history. And then we had another battle to fight when we come back.
Yeah.
And we fought it.
Yeah,
And we won it.
And that's, I guess that's kind of the origin of a lot of
Yeah.
the way Veterans Affairs works now, is that I think, in the wake of how the Vietnam War era veterans were treated, upon returning home, I think the country kind of got a better sense of itself later on and realized
Yes.
that wasn't right.
And that's why when Desert Storm happened, the outpouring of support for the GI was tremendous. And my group was right out there during the flag marches with them and everything. And that's when my generation came home. That's when the American people said, we're sorry. We made a mistake. We were wrong. We were misinformed and disinformed by the media and by the government. You guys did what you had to do. And we appreciate that now more than we did back then. Now, I've had people come right up to me and say, hey, I was a protester and I was wrong. And I shouldn't have done that, but I didn't know any better. The government told us this, and the media told us that, and it was all wrong. And you guys were just doing what you had to do because you didn't have any choice. And we didn't have any choice. In war, you fight to survive. Fight to survive and make sure the guy on either side of you survives. That's how it works. It's not about ideology. It's not about politics. It's not about land. It's about surviving. And so we did the same thing that all other generations of veterans did. We survived. We learned how to survive. We learned how to take care of each other. And then the same thing now, we take care of each other. Not that the other people won't, not that the VA won't, not that the American public won't, but we take care of each other.
Well, tell me about, so this community here is pretty special when it comes to veterans. Now, what I've heard is that we have the highest per capita population of veterans in all 58 counties of
I
California.
have heard that too. And that's probably believable because we don't have, we have 58,000 people in the county, and we think we have about 4,500 to 5,000 veterans. So you look at that, that's about 20%.
Yeah.
That's about 20%. Now, that's just veterans. Of course, people affected by veterans includes their families, so you extrapolate that out, you're probably talking about 50%. And I guess that's where they get those numbers. I don't know, but it's good. We've got a good medical clinic here. The VA gets a good medical clinic here. And so we have some good veterans organizations, and we have a lot of support from the rest of the county, from county government, city government, the civic social organizations in the community are very pro-veteran. So the days of old are gone. Mm-hmm. The attitudes of 40, 50 years ago have disappeared, and now we're respected and we are accepted and as part of the community.
Yeah. Do you think that vets are attracted to communities like this because of that? Have you heard anybody that's
I don't
moved
know
to Tuolumne County just because we have a...
No, I've never heard that, but I think, like me, I moved up here 40 years ago, and it's the first time in my life I'd lived in a non-military town, and I saw a difference right away. And by then, 1983, now that the war had been over, 18 years, things are beginning to change, and I saw some acceptance of veterans through the VFW and American Legion and DAV. People seem to accept those guys, and I said, "Well, I want to be involved in that." And it turned out to be true. They did, and then I brought my generation in with the Chapter 391, brought them to the forefront, and got them involved in fighting over the Veterans Hall downtown, and starting to show up at parades and at funerals with the color guard, things like that. And we were obviously accepted. Mm-hmm. And it was a little bit of a surprise because we didn't know that was going to happen. And when it did, hey, great feeling that day. That 1988 Middle Load Roundup Parade, Chapter 391's color guard marched down that street, and we did not know what the reception would be. And by the time we got to the Sonora Inn, there wasn't a dry eye in that group because we were accepted. The crowd on the street said, "We accept you." And to us, that was somewhat of a shock. We just didn't realize the amount of respect and care they had for us. But they showed it that day. And I think that had a lot to do with how the success of the organization went forward from there, because people, we know we're all chest thumpers, and we realized that we don't have to be defensive anymore. Mm-hmm. We can, accept our status in the community and go from there.
Yeah. Well, we've got a couple of big things going on in the community right now. We got Veterans Day coming up. Mm-hmm. I know that you've been working really hard on the Women's Memorial in Twain Harte. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Like, first of all, where is it? Okay. What's it going to look like, and what was the inspiration for that?
I had built the 9/11 Memorial out in Tuolumne, and when I got started on it, I got to thinking and said, with this Me Too movement, all of a sudden we need to respect women and do for them that we hadn't been doing before. And I said, we probably should build a Veterans Memorial. Well, who builds memorials in this county but me? But this is my fourth one. And so I said, well,
hold on. What are the other ones? So I know the 9/11.
The Vietnam Veterans Memorial at the library on Greenlee Road.
I did not know yet. We're behind that. Yeah. That's a wonderful memorial.
That was my first one. The second one was what we call the All Veterans Memorial at the VA Clinic on Monterey.
Okay.
And then the 9/11 Global War on Terrorism in Tuolumne at the Veterans Hall.
Right.
And so I got some people together and said, what do you think? Is this a good idea? But no, it's a good idea. Let's do it. So I put together a group of women veterans. 4 of the 6 women are combat veterans. That's something we couldn't have said 30 years ago, Right. Wasn't that many women in combat. Now there are. And dynamic group of women, been great in helping me design this memorial and promote it and raise funds for it. And in fact, one of my girls is going to be the speaker this year at the Seroptimus. For 15 years or so, they've been doing a women's veterans luncheon in Twain Harte. And Jill Main is going to be the speaker. Jill's a Iraq, Afghanistan veteran, and she's going to be their keynote speaker. It's a great event. I'd suggest anyone go to that. That's a good event to go to. And so I got to thinking, well, let's do a women's memorial. What would that look like? Well, I don't know. I'm not an artist, but I can get artists. I know I can get an architect. So I just kicked the idea around. Finally, I said, let's go. I got the Chamber of Commerce in Twain Harte to take the lead on it because I have to have a 501c3 to run the money through so we don't get in trouble with the IRS. So they took the job on. The Seroptimus Club was what first donation we had was $5,000 because they are so interested in women veterans, and they show that by having that event every year. And went to the county, asked for a little piece of property on Fuller Drive. It's right at the entrance to the swimming pool, right next to the local press cafe. 31 by 35 foot little piece of ground that's been landscaped and got a split rail fence around it. It's an ideal location. It gets a lot of foot traffic. A lot of people will see it. We got the design approved by the county. I've had great help from people like Roy Charles Lane, a man who grew up in Tuolumne and in Columbia, and when he retired, he moved back there. He's an artist, an architect. He's been very instrumental. John Sharon, the president of the Motherlode Art Association, has contributed some great ideas. All the veterans groups back it, contributing money. The Sonora Area Foundation donated $10,000. I can always count on them. A great organization, probably the greatest organization in this county because they affect so many people, you know. And they got a great board and great understanding board, and just, you know, the community just comes together on an event like this. Now I've kind of hit a wall on raising money. I still need another $15,000 to $20,000. I'm getting just this week and next week we will apply for a building permit. I'm going to go ahead and get some things started. We're going to put up the arched entryway and name that in honor of the Seroptimus ladies, and just start doing some groundwork. I have to dig some holes in the ground and things like that. I am the project manager. Basically, that means that I make sure there's men, materials, and machines on the property to get whatever needs to be done. First thing, we've got to dig some trenches, dig a couple of foundations, pour some concrete, and then we can start building. I get great support from anyone I ask for help in this county. They say, "Okay, let's go, let's do it."
Well, we say you hit a wall with the fundraising. If somebody was watching wanted to throw a couple of coins your way, how would they contact you to do that?
The Twain Harte Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
They have a website. They have a page on there for the memorial. They can contribute. They can sponsor. I have a couple of things. I'm looking for someone to sponsor the flagpole for $5,000. They'll get a plaque on there saying who they are and what they contributed, and get a couple of commemorative bricks that'll go on the ground. The water feature on the back part of the property will be offered for $5,000, and again, a plaque and bricks. And then the archway is going to be named after the Seroptimus because they contributed $5,000 for that. Then I have another one. Boone's Memorial is building for me a Sierra White Granite American Eagle in flight. It's got a 5-foot wingspan, and it's being chiseled in a machine. They have a machine that makes statuary, and they're getting ready to put that 1,300-pound block of white granite in there, and it will chisel that eagle.
So it sounds like you're building it with pieces when you have it.
We have it when pieces when I have it, yeah. The memorial itself is a 7-sided cone-like figure.
Yeah.
It's got 7 sides on it for this reason. Most of our lives, we've had 5 branches of the service. Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, Marine Corps. Now you have the 6th one, the Space Force.
Space Force, yeah.
And the Ladies Committee wanted to honor the women who served in the Merchant Marines during World War II. 1988, Congress declared that all Merchant Marines from World War II were considered veterans. And they certainly had the duty, the bad duty to, that they should be honored that way.
Sunk by U-boats and all.
Yeah, it was terrible duty, and they was on ships that weren't armed and couldn't fight back. So they wanted to honor the women, so that's the 7th side of that memorial. And looking for someone to sponsor that memorial for $5,000. And a couple of those things, and I'm over the hump and got plenty of money. I've got Mariscal Construction from down in the Bay Area. Martin Mariscal lives up here, and his brother, construction company, has donated some building materials to me. And then I have some other people who will donate building materials. What that does, it just means I need less money. Okay? And so I'm confident that I'll eventually get the money, but I'm going to go ahead and get started with the construction because I'm pretty sure the weather's going to shut me down at some point in time. It's supposed to be a wet winter.
Well, I mean, are you hoping to be done next year? Or?
Yeah, I'd like to finish it and dedicate it in March because March is Women's History Month.
Okay.
So that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay. Rather than wait for Memorial Day or something like that, we'll do it for Women's History Month. Well, and that's my goal.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you, so Veterans Day is coming up.
Yep.
What do you have planned for Veterans Day?
We are rapidly losing the World War II and Korean War veterans.
Right.
That generation is dying.
Yeah, because I guess the youngest World War II veteran now is going to be 90.
In his 90s.
In his 90s. Yeah.
The youngest Korean War veteran would be about 86 or 87.
Okay.
And then on up to into the 100. My VFW post in Tuolumne, Keith Dale 1, post 4748, is hosting a Veterans Day event like we always do, but this year's different. I'm trying to get as many World War II and Korean veterans as I can out there. I'm working with the long-term care homes who will transport their people out there for me. I'm appealing to families who have World War II or Korean members of their family and to bring them out. And then if I need buses, the county has given me access to Tuolumne Transit, and they will give me buses to go out and pick the guys up and bring them. And it'll be Saturday the 11th of November, 11 o'clock in the morning. Inside if it's bad weather, outside by the memorial if it's not, if it's decent weather. And we just want to get these guys and build that event around them and their history. Those two generations affected this country more than any generations in the history of our country.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah. Do you feel that that's, something that strikes me about, that period of time and that terrible conflict that killed so many across the world is that I feel like we're kind of forgetting that. We're forgetting what war is like.
We tend to.
And you hear a lot of people that really want to, rattle sabers and it's like, well, if you're the one out there actually fighting, maybe that's not such a good idea.
Right now, my heart goes out to the Israeli Defense Force.
Right.
They got a tough battle on their hands. It's one they got to fight.
Yeah.
And I support them 100%. But I know what they're going through, because I've been through it myself. And so most of my guys have all been through some form of combat that's never pleasant. And
do you think we're headed toward another kind of big conflict? Because we haven't, because you look at like the Iraq wars and you look at even the Vietnam War, compared to World War II, World War I, very small,
no comparison
wars by comparison. And so we've had about 60 years of relatively, let's say, peaceful.
Yeah, we call those brush fire wars.
Right.
They're small conflicts.
Yeah.
Where we always think we got to go over and save the world, and we need to pull our horns in a little bit. And I mean, I'm all for helping Ukraine.
Yeah.
I think we need to help Ukraine. I think we've helped Ukraine enough. I think it's time for Ukraine to get to the negotiating table. That conflict's not going to be. It's not going to be won or lost. There is no win or loss. Russia can't beat them, and they can't beat Russia, and it's time to negotiate it. And Ukraine's not going to get what they want, but they need to negotiate it and get the war over with.
Well, I'm going to ask you about that. So we're going to Ukraine now. Okay.
Yeah.
So the analogy I think of is that, okay, so you got your house, let's say I invade part of your house, right? So you're going to fight me to get me out of that part of your house. And then I say, well, hold on, let's negotiate, okay? I've got your kitchen and your bathroom. Well, just let me have your kitchen in your house. You know,
That's a pretty good analogy.
but that's not a good way to negotiate, because I just stole your kitchen.
But the alternative is you're going to keep fighting and killing each other.
Yeah, but what if next week let's say we have this agreement. I got your kitchen. You get your bathroom back, and then next week I invade another part of your house, and I say, well, let's negotiate here.
Putin's not strong enough to get what he wants, and the other guy isn't strong enough to get what he wants, so someone's going to have to compromise.
Yeah. So you do a lot of work with younger veterans, and we've got quite a few, and so you think of that era of the war on terrorism. Those veterans are kind of coming of age. They've all got families now. They're all into careers. Do you see them kind of coming into the fold and stepping up and participating in veterans issues locally?
This county, we have one American Legion, which has about 160 members. We have two VFWs. One VFW has about 50 members. The other has about 150 members. The problem with these groups right now, one problem is participation. Mm-hmm. We can't get the guys to come out and go to meetings and hold office and do fundraisers. So we have to recruit. And who we should be recruiting is what I call the modern era veteran, the guys who served in Desert Storm to today. If we don't get them in our veterans groups, the veterans groups are going to fail. One of them has failed. That's the DAV. One of them has almost failed. That's the VFW. They've got it resurrected and moving in the right direction. But if these young veterans don't come in the next 10 years, there will be no veterans organizations in this county. And I just can't imagine life in America without veterans organizations. I can't imagine life in this community without veterans organizations. And so we've got to attract those young men and women to get into our veterans groups and take them over and run them the way you want to. I worked with some veterans in New Orleans. New Orleans is my favorite place. I'm from Louisiana.
Okay.
They said, look, we want to have a VFW, but we're not going to run it like you guys do. The VFW is a very stylized, well-organized organization that has, you got to stand up and salute the commander when you want to speak. They don't want to do that. That's what they don't do that. Don't do that. Have a good meeting and get something done. I don't care if you follow protocol. That's not a big deal. So that's what the young guys need. They need to be able to come into an organization and reorganize it their way. And us older guys are perfectly willing for them to do it because we don't want to lose that organization. This VFW in Tuolumne is a historic VFW. It's been around since 1946, and it's done amazing things in this county. I don't want to see that organization die. I've been a member of it for 34 years. I transferred to the other VFW in Tuolumne to build that memorial. I don't see that. I don't see them die. I don't see the American Legion die. It's a great organization. These are national organizations that affect millions of men and women. We need it.
If somebody's listening to this and they think, you know what, maybe it is time that I stepped up. What's the best way for them to get some more information about whether it's
contact me? Contact me.
How do they contact you?
209-559-1908, and I will help you out. Or contact me on email fsmart@rocketmail.com. You know, the younger guys, I think they don't quite understand what we do. To be a member is not time consuming. A meeting a month, or and have maybe some committee meetings and help do fundraisers. My VFW in Tuolumne now runs the Lumber Jubilee. Mm-hmm. We need a lot of help. That's a great organization. We don't want that to die. So someone come to us and said, take it over. So we took it over. We raise money for scholarships. Now, all these young men and women out there raising families going to be looking at scholarships in a few years. That's what we do.
Great.
We have funds available to help disabled and homeless veterans. Right now, we have a new coalition we put together last year with the Moose, the Elks, and 5 veterans organizations that give us great financial resources and great labor resources. And what we're looking at are elderly veterans living in reduced circumstances, and there's a number of them out there, and we can help them. We helped one guy recently with his plumbing. Waters Plumbing went out there and did over $2,000 worth of work to get him to where he could have hot water. Now that was a great. Wayne Waters, who recently passed away, was a Vietnam veteran, and his family stepped up for that veteran. That's how you do it. This community will do that, and do it all day long, and do it gladly.
Yeah. Well, Frank, speaking of your service, I can't let you go before I ask you about your hat. What's the story there?
That's a cavalryman's hat.
Yeah.
Now, probably the best known cavalryman in American military history was George Custer.
Didn't work out too well for him.
Didn't work out. George wasn't the combat leader he thought he was.
Yeah.
I've read many books about George Custer, and I admire him in a lot of ways. But the final act of his life was dumb.
Yeah.
Didn't listen to his intelligence, and he split his forces.
He
this
got
hat,
lucky several different times throughout his career, and then at the end there, he didn't. Luck ran out.
He didn't. Yeah,
that was kind of what
this hat is what they call a cavalryman's hat. It's worn by the men who are cavalry. Cavalry soldiers are taught to fight on horseback, and then on occasion they dismount and fight as foot soldiers. And the history of that, of course, goes back to the Civil War, and before that, even the Revolutionary War had cavalry. I served with the 1st Cavalry Division Air Mobile. That's their symbol right there. In Vietnam, we didn't ride to battle on horses. We rode to battle on helicopters. But same concept. The horses get you to the battlefield, and then you fight on foot as an infantryman. My job in Vietnam, I was a combat reporter photographer for my division newspaper. I was trained as a military journalist by DOD, and I went to Vietnam and served 7 months in the field, going out with the infantry soldiers, because that's where my stories were. That's where my photos were. And spent time what I call outside the wire. And really got a taste of what it's like to be in the infantry, basically.
Yeah.
I had started studying military history when I was 11 years old. And you go look at my Kindle reader right now, there's nothing on there but military history. That's my hobby.
Yeah.
That's the closest thing I have to a hobby, is military history, and I love it. To this day, I love it. I've read so many books, and I love the life of an infantryman, what they have done for this country, and the sacrifices they've made. Heroes, just heroes. But also the guy that sits at a desk in the Pentagon in a military uniform and shuffles papers around, he's a hero too. Because the guy in the field has to have beans and bullets, and that's where he gets them. Okay? So that's as important a job as the guy out there in the field, because he can't do his job unless this guy does his job. So anyone who served in the military is a hero to me.
Yeah. Well, Frank, thank you so much for coming and talking about it. And I got to tell you, thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And come on back anytime, and we'll talk more about the Women's Memorial once we get her open.
I'll get it going here pretty soon.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. I'm Ryan Campbell. Join us again next week. We're going to be talking about Tuolumne County and all the wonderful things that go on here. Take care.